The following story is known as one of the most shocking and not to mention devastating bear attacks in North American history. This terrifying attack took place in Waugh Mountain, Colorado. Located in San Isabel National Forest, this is a summit decorated with steep, jagged mountains, bathed for the most part with pine and fir trees. Near its pockets of water, the beautiful mountain landscape furthermore boasts aspen and berry bushes, as well as pockets of willow. It is also home to a variety of North American wildlife, ranging from herbivores such as deer and elk to an unknown number of black bears. There are many people whose careers involve outdoor living, and a perfect example of one such person would be none other than Colin McClelland, a lumberjack who followed in his father's footsteps and carried on the family legacy of harvesting timber from timber stands. After several years of working in Waugh Mountain, Colin reported a number of incidents involving bears. This included one occurrence in which a bear had managed to break into his camper and devour all his food supply. Bears are omnivores and are just as opportunistic as they are capable hunters. 90% of a black bear's diet consists of vegetable matter such as berries, nuts, and acorns. In terms of meat, bears in majority eat insects and carrion, but will not shy away from making a quick meal out of small rodents such as mice, and when the opportunity presents itself, garbage left behind by humans. There are also instances, of course, where bears, and black bears in particular, have engaged humans in purely predatory fashion, with no other intentions but consumption. On other occasions, Colin would see bears show up around his RV during the nighttime, blatantly scratching and sniffing around for food in his campsite. Despite having the foresight to ensure the outside of his camper would be free of any potential bear attractants, it later became clear to him that it was his very own food supply which he had stored in his camper which was attracting the bears via their powerful sense of smell. Unbeknownst to Colin at the time, 4 nuisance black bears were ear-tagged and sedated in Waugh Mountain since 1988. With the bears frequenting his camp more often, their temperaments also began to show noticeable changes. The bears would sniff around for food at night, showing lesser and lesser fear as each night passed. It seemed that the bears had now seen Colin as a normal part of their environment, which meant that they no longer needed to be cautious or fearful of his presence. On Friday the 13th of August 1993, Colin had been in his RV recovering from a strong flu which he had contracted while harvesting lodgepole pines, a task which takes an even harsher toll on one's immune system, especially if they're sick. To top things off, Colin had also been sleeping on his RV's roof for the past several nights, as he was afraid of the bears, who had once again lost all fear that they had of him. As he prepared dinner on his stove that night, Colin began weighing out the options: to spend the night on the roof of his RV in the cold while still recovering from the flu, or take his chances and sleep in the camper, as no bears had broken into the RV on the previous nights when he had been sleeping on the roof. As Colin sat there thinking, he remembered that a friend had recently lent him a high-caliber rifle capable of taking down bears. Colin then felt a sense of security engulf his emotions, which coupled with his fatigued and sick body made him ultimately decide to succumb to the comforts of his RV. He takes some flu medicine, lays on his bed, turns off the lights, and begins drifting into a deep slumber. As the night breeze carried the scent of the dinner he had cooked through the valley, it finally found itself entering the nostrils of bears in the vicinity. It's important to note that bears spend most of their summers putting on weight in preparation for a long winter of hibernation. This particular bear, however, was just a 240-pound black bear who had little luck bulking up for the winter, leaving him weak to fight for dominance over other stronger, more well-nourished males. And of course, this made the bear too hungry and opportunistic to avoid an easy meal. It was this very bear that was allured by the aroma seeping out of Colin's RV. The bear curiously approaches the RV, looking for gaps or air pockets where the scent of food was the strongest, and his eyes quickly lock on to the crack underneath the RV's door. Now don't get it twisted. Although black bears are commonly known to shy away from humans, when a black bear does attack, this is usually a predatory attack. In other words, that bear wants to make a meal out of you. Other than instances where they are protecting their cubs, if a black bear attacks you, the best thing to do is to fight back. Because playing dead as one would with a grizzly bear, in most cases will not work if one were ever to be unfortunate enough to be a victim of an attacking black bear. The bear begins prying at the door with its claws, desperately attempting to remove the barrier between it and the food that it's been smelling. Colin jolts up from his bed, instantly recognizing the danger of the circumstances. And as the door began to bend and break, Colin quickly grabs the rifle that his friend lent him and fired a shot through the door, hoping to make contact with the bear. But the prying would not stop, and in turn began to get even more aggressive. The lock on the door finally submits to the bear's might, and the RV door flies open. And despite the food that it was smelling this whole time just being meters away, the bear avoided it completely, and instead went straight for Colin, who was standing frozen in shock near his bed. The bear charges at Colin, clawing and biting at him in the moment of impact. His fight or flight response kicks in, allowing him to muster up what little energy his sick body could spew out to at least allow him a chance to process a way out of the situation, if not fight his way out of it. Colin hurls punches at the bear in desperation with his fatigued arms, to no effect. The beast then knocks him to the ground. And as Colin eked out some final attempts at saving his own life, it was clear that he stood no chance against the bear, who then went for the death blow, clamping its mouth around Colin's head, which crushed his skull instantly, ending his life in immediate fashion, at which point the bear began to calmly consume his lifeless body. Friends who had known Colin had been battling illness showed up at the RV to pay him a visit shortly after the attack. They wanted to see if he felt any better, but upon arriving, to their shock and horror, all they saw were his bloodied remains spread out about 30 yards from the entrance of his RV. His body was almost eaten to the bone. Authorities later said that the attack could very well have been predatory, but it could also have been the bear's way of asserting its dominance over Colin. Investigators later also revealed that the bear most likely consumed Colin's body in 3 intervals. First, it partially consumed the body in the RV immediately after the attack, after which it returned twice in the following days to finish the job. Wildlife management officers later set up a catch trap near Colin's trailer and shortly thereafter managed to capture and kill the bear that claimed the young logger's life. The 240-pound animal was identified by a bullet wound that it had on its side, matching the size of the bullet hole that Colin had shot into the RV's door. But the story doesn't end here. To further ensure that they caught the right bear, the animal was blood tested for a specific protein, which is present only after the consumption of human flesh. And to their surprise, there was no such protein present in this bear's digestive system. Authorities later returned to the site for an even further investigation, and it was later discovered that the bear tracks for the bear who had killed Colin were in fact from a smaller bear. And after performing a necropsy on the animal that they had killed, they confirmed that the bear that they had killed was in fact not a small malnourished bear like the one that had eaten Colin, but this was a much stronger and healthier bear who had just happened to be mistaken for the original culprit. Be sure to stay tuned for the next true animal attack story featuring a deadly shark attack.